And now we are talking about it. After 30 years, mind you. Why? There was no country called Eritrea. There was no citizens called Eritrea before 1890. The cities were built for the Italian colonialists and not for the Tigrinya speaking or the Tigray speaking Eritrean people. They came in the morning, showed their ID card, barbed wire, they went into Asmara. They did what they did as helpers in the house, gardeners, chauffeurs, street cleaners, or what have you. And in the evening, all of those, our brothers in Eritrea, they left.
Thank you so much. This is Gazeta Plus Diplomacy. My guest is Professor Brook Hailu Besha. He served as senior diplomat in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He served as deputy ambassador at the Ethiopian Embassy, Washington, D.C. Also was special envoy to the U.S. with the rank of Minister Plenipotentiary. Professor Hailu also, his academic, he was also posted as Ethiopian permanent representative to the UNESCO. His academic leadership and teaching includes professor at College of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences at North Carolina A&T State University. Advice, exams and lectures, PhD students both in Addis Ababa University, Jijiga University and elsewhere. He is also have wide media engagement including in BBC International TV, Deutsche Welle and VOA. His academic background and education fits to talk about our today's topic, Ethiopia's quest for access to the sea. Professor, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Professor, Ethiopia's history was connected with, particularly with the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, and other sea outlets. During the Aksumite period, Ethiopia used to facilitate its trade with the Greco-Roman world, with Near East and Far Eastern countries. And during the medieval time, it also used the Zela port and so on. But post-1991, Ethiopia remained landlocked. And then EPRDF regime didn't care about the sea outlets. Why do you think they didn't care about it? Why they condemned us to remain landlocked?
Thank you. As the saying goes in the West, in America, one says it's a $1 million question. So I see it that way. Yes, it is. That's the paradox. I mean, Ethiopia for thousands and thousands of years had full access to the Red Sea, even on the side of Yemen as well, all the way to the Gulf of Aden, Somalia coast and the like. But Ethiopia was condemned since 1991 to be landlocked, which was not the case for centuries and for decades before 1991. Why? I think it's a government decision. The government of the time, the EPRDF government, it seems, it's hard to believe, but it seems, you can also call them naively. It seems they have sealed their destiny as well as the destiny of Ethiopia as a landlocked country, never even to raise the question of, why don't we have access to the sea? That was a no-go question, by the way. Even at the universities, people were not welcomed when they discussed about, especially disseminate in front of the public and the like, raising the question of why is Ethiopia landlocked? We have the United Nations conventions and all kinds of laws of landlocked countries. They have the right to have access to the sea. And that was not properly addressed. It seems they have just locked Ethiopia, locked the destiny of Ethiopia right there south of Assab, and then through the Kia way. And it seems the Prime Minister of the period as well, the Prime Minister under his leadership, accepting the fate of Ethiopia, folding their arms, and just accepting our fate, which was really wrong for a sovereign country like Ethiopia, especially given the facts that this is a heavyweight, in terms of population, heavyweight country. At the time, 65 million, now 127, 130 million. In 10, 20 years' time, we're going to hit 140, 25, 150 million people. What are you going to do about it, really? It's a matter of life and death to have access to the sea. It becomes more so when the neighboring countries which have access to the sea are not willing to address the pain and the shortcomings of Ethiopia. When they don't really are eager to listen to the plea of Ethiopia, literally the plea of Ethiopia to have access to the sea based on what? A win-win situation, and not based on conquest or not based on military adventurism or military actions. That was not listened to. And 27 years, for the last 27 years under Meles and Prime Minister Haile Mariam, for them Ethiopia was minus the Red Sea coast. As to how to get access to the sea, 6 years was okay, 1991 to 1997. The relations between the Eritrean government and the EPRDF government was okay, at least. But economic rivalries and political rivalries at the beginning of the 7th year led them to military skirmishes, and then the military maneuvering, and then the whole area blew apart when Eritrean troops moved into Badme, claiming the Badme area as theirs. So that was the situation. Even after the bloody 2 years war, even after militarily Ethiopia won the conflict, literally won the conflict, the issue of access to the sea was not raised by the government of Ethiopia of the period. They turned around, went back, rather than claim at least some kind of access to the sea.
Why do you think is the reason? Even it's a lost opportunity, as you have rightly addressed it. Why didn't just try to claim at least some of the ports, like Asa port, during the time? Is that lack of diplomatic prowess or lack of farsightedness, or what?
I would say lack of political will and the lack of foresightedness. And also, people were questioning the leadership of Ethiopia at the time. How do they see Ethiopia? Did they accept the history of Ethiopia with all its the good, the bad, and the ugly? Or was there some kind of a rejection of the Ethiopia that they have in their mind? So I think they had every right to address this issue, but it seems they didn't bother. It seems they were content, even for Ethiopian intellectuals who raised the question of Ethiopia needs to have access to the sea. They were not positively seen. They were seen as troublemakers, as anti-peace elements, as warmongers and the like. But what people at the time, I remember even at the universities, were asking was some kind of an access to the sea, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers, or even to get a 99 years old lease, 60 years old lease, or a contract, some kind of an arrangement with the Eritrean government. The Addis Ababa government was the least interested, sad to say. So as to why, they themselves know why. That's why even the Ethiopian public questioned the loyalty of the 27 years governments that were in power, their loyalty, where their heartbeat beats. Is it south of Marab or north of Marab? For this and other reasons. So people, whether they were having coffee or whether they're having this or that or debates, people were questioning, well, Meles did not do this because he was this or he was that. Well, he is best fit to answer for himself, but at least this were also considered. Ethiopia had better opportunities, even winning wars that Ethiopia did not start, but was started by our brothers to the north. They could have used this as some leverage to ask for some kind of access to the sea, etc. And by the way, 1990, 1991, at the time, such prominent American diplomats like Herman Cohen and the like, they were really wondering and they were baffled by why the EPRDF leadership at the time did not put on the table also Ethiopia's right to have access to the sea, which was totally put aside by the EPRDF leadership. So I think that's how things unfolded at the time. And now we are talking about it. After 30 years, mind you. Why? Because the issue is not solved. The issue is not resolved. That's why we are still talking about it.
Before we go to that, how did you analyze Ethiopia's quest to have access to the sea in relation to Otto von Bismarck's partitioning of Africa?
Wow, great question. Otto von Bismarck, the father of Deutschland, Germany, mit Eisen und Blut, he says, with blood and steel, he brought about the unification of Germany, and then finally the Berlin Congress and the like. This part of the Horn of Africa was silver plate handed over to the British, the French, and Italy. And more so, Ethiopia was handed over to Italy as Italy's sphere of influence and potential colony. And the highlands of Ethiopia in the north, there was no Eritrea before 1890. There was no country called Eritrea. There was what's called Bahar Nagash, that means outer mer, the French call it outer mer province, coastal province in English, maybe equivalent like that, was ruled by Alula, the Ethiopian general, and the like. So what happened was that this part of Africa was given to the three countries. In regard to Assab and north of Assab to Ras Kassar and Aurora, what we find is it was given to Italy. So the Italians set up their administration in Massawa first, and then in the highland area to Asmara, which became its capital. So the Italians set up their colonial administration, and they began to choose a name for their newly baptized, I would say, colonial territory. So the Italian parliament, the Italian cabinet at the time, they discussed. They even suggested names. Among the suggested names were, one was Eritrea, the other was Saba or Sheba, Queen of Sheba of Ethiopia. What is the meaning of Eritrea? Eritrea is a Greek word. Eritreos means Red Sea. Red Sea denoting or meaning the sea, south of the Gulf of Aqaba, all the way to the Bab el-Mandab. That's we call it the Red Sea. The Greeks called it at their time, the Greek Empire, Eritreos, Eritrea. So they baptized this new territory that we call Bahar Nagash as Eritrea. So there was no country called Eritrea. There was no citizens called Eritrea before 1890. But after 1890-91, yes, there is the Eritrean colony, and in 1941-42, and the federation, and then since 1991, yes, there is a country called Eritrea. So we need also to really take a look at how Eritrea came to be, how an Eritrean nation came to be. It's not 1,000 years old nation. It's a colonial administration that was baptized with a name called Eritrea in 1890. So when we speak sometimes, knowingly, unknowingly, wrongly or wrongly, that Eritrean people, Eritrean this and that, it is a new phenomena of 100+ years phenomena. Those are that, I would like to underline that, okay? Now, Djibouti, the same thing. It used to be called the territory of the Afars and the Isas by the French. When independence time came, they chose the name of the Djibouti port, the mouth of Bab el-Mandab. So they gave it this word to the name of the new colony called Djibouti. But Djibouti already existed as a port at the time. You see? And Kenya, the same thing, literally. The Kenyan highlands, the British chose a name. What shall we call it? Kenya. So there are reasons when colonial powers of the time, when they decided to give a name to territory. So for us, Ethiopians, before 1890, there is no Eritrea. There is what we call province, coastal province. That's it. So that is a factor that needs to be. And as to the consequences, yes, 40 years of separation precipitated between Ethiopian people and the Eritrean brothers and sisters. They developed a certain colonial mentality, Italian footprints. They began to use Italian language. Modern towns were built like Asmara, like Piccolo Roma, because there was an expectation that, especially in the 1920s and 30s, the Duca d'Aosta and the prince that was delegated as the ruler of the Italian colonies in Libya in Mogadishu, Somalia, and Eritrea, that office visit. So they built wonderful little towns as a photocopy of Italy. But what we found in reality at the time was there was apartheid. Apartheid is the Dutch word. Apartheid, separateness. The cities were built for the Italian colonialists and not for the Tigrinya-speaking or the Tigray-speaking Eritrean people. Just like in Soweto before the Rainbow Revolution in South Africa, they came in the morning, showed their ID card, barbed wire, they went into Asmara. They did what they did as helpers in the house, gardeners, chauffeurs, street cleaners, or what have you. And in the evening, all of those, our brothers in Eritrea, they left these artificial towns. Good for Eritrea today. That's fine, that's fantastic. But we need to really synthesize and see the colonial reality where the Eritrean mentality and the Ethiopian mentality sort of separated. One colonial, the other always proud, free people. And then even some Eritreans, they used to come to Ethiopia, they used to give their names to their daughters as Ethiopia. So there is this kinds of relations between the two inseparable people, even during the very hard times of colonialism.
Interesting point, Professor. Maybe some, I would say, onlookers argue that Ethiopia can use ports around it, just through diplomatic means, and just don't support Ethiopia to have a reliable, dependable, and secure sea outlet. Why do you think Ethiopia should have its own dependable and secure sea outlet?
Thank you. Because it is important for our Ethiopia survival. You can, it's like you can have a port as a service outlet, import and export service outlet, but it will, until eternity, it's not yours. It's not. It's like using a car, give it back to you. It's not yours. But what Ethiopia is aspiring to do is in a very legal way, not in a brutal military way, but in a diplomatic way, to acquire access to the sea. Based on what? Contract or a lease for 60 years, 80 years, 90 years, or what have you, as is done in other countries. That will secure Ethiopia's destiny. Because it's not yours. You have to have, even as individuals, you have to have what you call your own, because you'll not be in jeopardy against manipulation by any other forces. But what we have now is, the other option is, anytime, say, Djibouti can close its borders. That's it. So what is Ethiopia going to do about that? It has no legal leverage, it has no this, it has no that. Of course, we will sue the Djiboutian government to the International Court of Justice, but until this is resolved, no import and export. So what are we going to do? Use the military option or what? Pressuring Ethiopia. But if you have your own, you can build your ports, berths, you can expand the port, you can invest on it, you can, have your labor, have a railway corridor and a high-speed highways, you can build that. You have no worries at the back or behind, at the back of your mind. So you are secured. Psychologically also, you are not suspended on the air. Okay? But the fate of Ethiopia, the sad fate of Ethiopia is that we see what's failing in the Horn of Africa is goodwill. Goodwill among fellow brother countries. Goodwill meaning that Somalia has 3,300 kilometers long coastline. Eritrea has 1,200, 300, 400 kilometers long. They are smaller countries, but it's their own, okay. You look at the water 24 hours a day. Unless you turn it into gold and diamond by providing it to another customer, you don't get your money. Look at Djibouti now. It's a smart move. Every year now, $1.5 billion, and now topping $2 billion by just allowing Ethiopia to use their port. They get this whole lot of money that they can plow in and use back to accelerate their socio-economic development. So goodwill should be there. Why do some countries suffocate Ethiopia? Why?
Yeah, does it mean Ethiopia just if it just now come to the Red Sea, or if it has coastal territory, does it bring any threat to its neighbors, or is that opportunity?
Some say so, but I don't think so, because you cannot stop the economic, socio-economic development and growth of Ethiopia. No force can stop that. What are the factors? What are the variables I'm speaking about? It's a highly populated country, highland country, controlling the entire destiny of the Horn, minus the coastline, of course. We lost it, yeah. The economy is in the right track now. It's roaring, coming back, despite even domestic political crises in the north and northwest. You know what I mean. Sound economic, financial, physical policies are the trajectories are so that there is 8.1% growth this year. You know, check it out with the World Bank and IMF. It's not the governments, by the way, for credibility. I mean, last year, the year before that, the Ethiopian economy is now number fifth among the 55 African countries, including the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic of Western Sahara. All Ethiopia is moving, despite even political problems. So no force, no country can stop that. So the more Ethiopia progresses, the more Ethiopia needs for exporting products and importing goods and services also increases. So it's going to explode. Someday, somehow, it's going to explode. So the necessity of having one sport becomes what? Eminent. It's a must. The neighboring countries cannot stop it. They will not be able to stop because it's going to explode someday. God forbid, it's going to explode someday. One. Second factor is the economic might of Ethiopia is like the sun. You know, the planets are revolving in the solar system around the sun. The Ethiopian economy, the more strong, whether Eritrea, Djibouti, it's unavoidable. Their economy is pulled towards Ethiopia. Cheap labor, services, goods, what have you. So it means that this is a factor. Thirdly, the more Ethiopian economy grows, it means its military might and security interests will also grow. You cannot hamper. One countries cannot stop that. Ethiopia will always want to do what? Go back to the Red Sea, where we belong, by the way, where we were for thousands and thousands of years. It's not a new country. It's our neighborhood. It was our sea, and it is our sea by 60 meters, despite the geographical coastline difference in Eritrea. So it is, one should also, the neighboring countries should focus on their well-being for the future, well-being of their population, well-being of their economy, well-being of the whole stability of the greater Horn area. If Ethiopia explodes someday, somehow, because there are governments, all kinds of governments that entertain how to solve problems. Do that make sense? To this day, Ethiopia is not saying by force we have to go into or have access to the sea. Ethiopia is bowing, even begging, you know, with humility. Let's create a win-win situation with Eritrea, Djibouti, Kenya, and all the others. If this issue is not addressed, 40 years, 50 years down the line, when Ethiopian population is, after 20 years, 150, 200, 175, 200, 300, no force can stop it. The people's sentiment and also desire might explode. There is no guarantee. And also, the government that comes 20, 30 years down the line, we cannot bet on it, what kind of a strategy it would follow. Therefore, these countries, our neighboring countries, for their own sake, for our sake, for their own sake, for the stability, for a long-term stability of the whole region, better to sit down and find a solution where Ethiopia's national interest and access to the sea is accommodated. From it now to 20, 30, 40 years, the more it's going to be uncontrollable, the more Ethiopia's strategy, you'll never know, might be more brutal, might be more militaristic, even to the point of militaristic adventurism. No force can stop that. So I think one should be wise, reflect, stop, and analyze the situation.
Maybe
Plus the European Union, plus America, plus all those Russia, China, and all those countries. I feel they should put their weight behind finding a solution towards the aspiration of Ethiopia's access to the sea.
maybe Ethiopia's coming to the sea, as you have rightly mentioned, can have positive ramification to
Absolutely.
Its
Yes.
to the territory, to the coastal countries around it. What more benefit can you mention just regarding fighting sea piracy, which now was like 10 million USD, and terrorism and so on?
Absolutely. I mean, this is a big country and militarily disciplined, organized, sturdy force that can be that is paying a price, by the way, fighting Al-Shabaab and all kinds of terrorist groups. Let's not forget that. Starting from Al-Ittihad al-Islamiyah, way back in the 1980s in Somalia, and then the Islamic Court Union. Who broke the backbone of this terrorist organization? It's Ethiopian troops. Let's not forget also Al-Islam al-Joma, another group, and now Al-Shabaab, the fourth generation, who had come to assist our failed state and our brothers in Somalia. For the last 17, 18 years, starting from AMISOM, ATMIS, and now AUSOM, who's paying the price? More than 60% of the Somali territory is covered and protected by Ethiopian peacekeeping troops. We even cover Sector 3 is ours, Ethiopian troops. Sector 6 with Kenya, we support the Kenyans. And then the other sectors like Sector 4, I believe, we help also the Djiboutians. In addition to the sectors that we are defending, who paid the price? These are Ethiopian troops. Okay? So Ethiopians' role in regard to fighting terrorism and so many global issues is a plus. If Ethiopia is back into the Red Sea with its planned navy as well, naval forces, Ethiopia is a reliable, dependable, strong ally to the West as well as to all peace-loving Horn countries, whether it's Djibouti or Eritrea or what have you. Ethiopia, it's in the nature of Ethiopia to do what? To assist those who are in need and what have you. Look at the sea piracy. If Ethiopia Navy was in that part of, in the Red Sea, imagine if we were there, like in the past 50s, 40s, 60s, and 70s, and 80s, such nonsense will not happen. Ethiopia will be an additional force towards American forces, British forces, Chinese forces, all those 9 countries which have now military bases in Djibouti alone, mind you. So Ethiopia is a dependable force, a serious force, ready to help, assist as Africans, Pan-Africanism, as well as Horn countries. It's a plus if Ethiopia is back in the Horn for the West, as well as for Russia and China as well. So I think it's a win-win situation for all countries, and also Ethiopia is a dependable country for Horn countries. If they fall into disarray or what have you, it's Ethiopia that they, like Somalia, that Ethiopia is going the country that will assist them to once again bring back normalcy, whether it's Djibouti, God forbid, or Eritrea. Something would happen here, you'll never know. You never know. Because politics is also, you have an element of unpredictability in political situations.
Do we have practical examples that landlocked countries get access to the sea?
Sure, yes. I'll come to the African continent. Let me start for a change. In Europe, look at Switzerland and Österreich or Austria. They are landlocked countries. But thanks to the Rhine, the mighty Rhine River, and also thanks to the Danube River that outflows in the Black Sea, the Rhine in the North Sea begins in Schwarzwald, in the Black Forest part of southern Germany. Look at Austria and Switzerland. They use German ports like Hafenstadt, Bremen, like Hamburg or Hamburg, Duisburg, and other scores of ports, as well as Switzerland and Austria. They use Antwerp in Belgium, Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and scores of other ports. And no hiccups, no nothing. No nothing, no hiccups. No envy, no this, you become a threat to us, you become this, you'll take over this. This is what? Cultured societies. Cultured, brotherly European countries. They understand the pain of these countries. In addition, let's take Czech Republic. It's a landlocked. Slovakia, it's a landlocked country. Hungary, it's a landlocked country. Okay? So countries like, by the way, Austria, they also use Trieste, Adriatic coast. That's a port of Italy, which is 80 kilometers, as far as I know, from the Austrian border. And also they use one port in Slovenia, one of the former 6 republics of the former Yugoslavia. So yes, there is this precedence, cooperation and goodwill, and they benefit economically, by the way, by allowing the Rhine and the Danube. They benefit. The Danube crosses 10 countries, the Rhine 6 countries, mind you, all the way to Ukraine, to Black Sea, to Ukraine. That's where the Danube outflows. It begins way up in the north. So as to African examples, look at Mozambique. They have this good sense of, goodwill. They allow Malawi to use their ports. Malawi is landlocked. Zimbabwe, the former Rhodesia, they are landlocked, but they use the ports in Mozambique. What is wrong if Ethiopia uses, say, Massawa and Assab to their economic benefit? What's wrong with that? I see no, except lack of goodwill. I have to be blunt now. Purposely I have to be blunt. Lack of goodwill. Not caring for the pain of your neighbor and your brotherly, close people. Another example is Uganda lately. They have an agreement now. They're going to build close to 1,300 kilometers railway all the way to the Tanzanian port, just off the border of Kenya, North Tanzania. Look, where is the will? There is a way. Where is goodwill? There is a way. We can find a solution. I see the Horn of Africa, this turbulent area, is no exception, provided we have a goodwill by some matter of leadership. Some leaders see things, some fear others as envy or as evil or as competitors. So it all depends on good leadership also. So yes, there are examples in Latin America as well. Let's not forget Bolivia. They fought many wars, but at least now Bolivia with Peru and Chile, they have access to the sea, things like that. So the list goes on. Paraguay is also another example. So yes, there are precedents.
So many interesting points, Professor Brook. In a recently parliamentary session, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed raised the issue that we need to have access to the sea with pure commercial principles, with a give and take. What can we give? What do they want, and what can we take back?
A great question. Ethiopia has really, had make all kinds of efforts peacefully trying to have access to the sea. If we begin with say, Eritrea, because of our special relations with Eritrea, Ethiopia was willing even to, to sell part of the Ethiopian Airlines shares, to Eritrea or Djibouti, to any other interested country. Let's not forget the GERD, the Renaissance Dam. Electricity is as good as gold, as good as money. That also shares can be sold. Ethiopia has got a good potential. The economy of Ethiopia is many times over the economies of the all Horn countries. That's what the evidence tells us. So Ethiopia has offered this, but the response was cold, real ice cold. Ice cold. Meaning countries, they have thousands of sea coasts, but they just look at it, fold their arms and they look at it. But that itself, the The sea is what? It's diamond and gold. They could transform it into that. That was not done. So the response was negative, and let's see the attitude kind of putting Ethiopian proposals, to use Assab, to use Massawa on the shelf for years. Look, 7 years already. The rapprochement with Eritrea, that was historical. The two countries, the two leaders met. Ethiopia took the initiative, and it was reciprocated by the leadership in Asmara. That was fantastic. And Ethiopia put what its national interest it needs on the table. The proposals are all there. We hear about it. But no response is given. Why? I think it's a matter of goodwill. Accepting one neighborly brother as own brother. Goodwill. It will not kill anybody. Even as Christians or Muslims, looking at your own brother, feeling the pain of Ethiopia. So I think it's a matter of goodwill. If there is a change of government in this country X, the country Y, who knows what the new leaders in the north of Marab River or other would come with. They might solve the problem, definitely. Meaning what? Not hand over the whole country to Ethiopia on a silver platter, but at least address Ethiopia's pain based on commercialism, based on economic goals. They can reap billions of dollars based on Ethiopia. Look at Djibouti, $1.5 billion per year. And now it's already $2 billion American dollars. A nation like Djibouti with 1 million people. So there is this windfalls, economic benefits that one can get by offering 20 kilometers or whatever kind of a coastline by giving it to Ethiopia, either by contract, by lease, and the like. In the case of what we see now, Massawa and Asmara, even to use it, Ethiopia has been stopped, has been blocked. Why? I leave it to the audience, to their judgments. Why? Goodwill factor, I think, is my own personal reasons. Plenty of examples in the world. Even countries, they invest in each other, to develop neighboring countries' ports. Why can't Ethiopia do that? Economically, they can grow. They can create East African Confederacy, creating a win-win situation. Ethiopia can even swap land with Eritrea to the north, for example. Fertile land. Eritrea has got 1,600 at least kilometers all the way to the Djibouti border, Ras Dumera coastline. They can turn it around and find and give something to Ethiopia, and Ethiopia can give a potential territory to Eritrea. There are so many, so many options, but I think one has to be serious, because now it's 2025. When all of us are gone, you and me, and most of our audience, 40, 50, 60 years later on, Ethiopia is now literally begging neighboring countries, literally begging, please address, reflect, evaluate my situation. There is no guarantee. The government that might come in Ethiopia, we don't know. We cannot, politics is unpredictable. 50 down is, it might not listen even to resonance, to rationality. It might believe in might is right. So what are the smaller countries in the Horn, what are they going to do about it? It's a danger for them, I think. Let's solve it now to avoid a bigger problem later on. Let's solve it now for the sake of our generations now, as well as for our children's generations in the decades to come. Better handle the problem now, the issue now, rather than late. The more we postpone it, the more the price we pay will be high, in blood, in money, in everything. So I think that's how I see it, and I hope some kind of resonance will come. And Ethiopia needs the support of African brothers, other Horn countries, America. We need the support of America, the European Union, Europeans, UK, the Russians, the Chinese. We need everybody. Even Japan has come all the way to Djibouti and has a base in Djibouti. Why is it not a big deal? Why is it a big deal when Ethiopia aspires to have an access to the sea? Why? I mean, this is unjust. unjust issues. This issue has to be, we need to find a solution for that. And to find a solution, Western countries like America and the Europeans as well as Russia and China, they need to come on board to avoid a bigger conflict in the decades to come. Better solve it now, because the Red Sea is a too important waterway. Suez Canal in the north, south of Aqaba, Bab el-Mandeb, Gulf of Aden, the Somali subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, I mean, and then when you turn around, the Persian Gulf, everybody's, the global, it will have a global economic impact as well as political impact in terms of migration, in terms of displacement of millions of people, in terms of the dislocation of resources, in terms of conflicts where millions, thousands might perish. We can act now to avoid this problem, I think. And I think we should give due attention to this, all countries. So countries need to listen and accept the pain of Ethiopia, which has to be addressed.
Professor Brook Hailu, thank you for your insightful discussion. This is Gazeta Plus Diplomacy. Professor Brook Hailu Besha, who is expert in international relations and political science, also a scholar who served in the diplomatic sphere as well. Thank you so much.